In January 2019, the prestigious military community of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, home to some of America's most distinguished military personnel, witnessed the arrival of a new resident who would ultimately alter the course of several lives. Colonel James Donovan, a respected officer with 24 years of service in the United States Army, resided at 38 Oak Street with his wife Margaret, a local high school teacher, and their daughter Emily, who had returned home for winter break from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Emily Donovan, 19, was a freshman majoring in international relations, maintaining a 3.8 GPA in her first semester. She had grown up in the structured environment of military bases, moving between 4 different stations before her father's permanent assignment to Fort Bragg in 2015. Despite the frequent relocations, Emily had excelled academically and socially, serving as student body president in her senior year at Pine Forest High School before graduating as valedictorian in 2018. On January 15, 2019, Michael Reynolds, a 27-year-old former Marine Corps sergeant, moved into house number 42 on Oak Street, just 2 doors down from the Donovans. Reynolds's military record was impressive. 2 tours in Afghanistan, 2014 to 2015 and 2016 to 2017, with the 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, where he earned the Navy and Marine Corps Medal for Valor. According to military records, during his 2nd tour, Reynolds had led a successful rescue operation under heavy enemy fire, saving 3 fellow Marines trapped in a collapsed building near Kandahar. The neighborhood, known as Highland Heights, was an exclusive area within Fort Bragg, primarily housing senior officers and their families. Reynolds's presence as a former enlisted Marine was unusual for the area, but his lease had been approved through a special veterans housing program implemented by the base commander, General Thomas Mitchell, to support decorated veterans transitioning to civilian life. Reynolds's arrival attracted attention among the residents, particularly given his status as one of the youngest homeowners in Highland Heights. His decorations, including the Valor Medal prominently displayed during the move-in, garnered respect from many neighbors. Local security footage from base entrance checkpoints showed Reynolds making several trips that day in a silver 2017 Ford F-150, moving furniture and personal belongings into his new residence. The Donovan family, following military community tradition, initially welcomed Reynolds to the neighborhood. Security cameras at the Highland Heights Community Center captured Colonel Donovan approaching Reynolds on January 16, 2019, during the newcomer's morning jog, introducing himself as the neighborhood watch coordinator. Base records indicate that Reynolds had selected Fort Bragg as his residence specifically for its proximity to several civilian shooting ranges where he planned to pursue employment as a firearms instructor. His military discharge papers, filed 4 months prior, listed his specialty as a combat marksmanship instructor, with additional certifications in close-quarters combat and tactical shooting. The initial weeks following Reynolds' arrival appeared normal, with security logs showing regular patterns of movement, early morning runs, trips to local shooting ranges for job interviews, and occasional visits to the base exchange. However, surveillance footage would later reveal that during this period, Emily Donovan's jogging route gradually changed to coincide with Reynolds' schedule, though at the time, this detail went unnoticed by her family and neighbors. By February 2019, Michael Reynolds had secured employment at Eagle Shot, a civilian shooting range located at 2778 Rayford Road, approximately 5.3 miles from Fort Bragg's main gate. The facility's owner, David Kendrick, hired Reynolds based on his extensive military experience and impressive references from his Marine Corps superiors. Employment records show Reynolds was hired on February 3, 2019, with an initial salary of $52,000 per year as a lead firearms instructor. Eagle Shot's security cameras documented Emily Donovan's first visit to the facility on February 12, 2019, when she enrolled in a women's self-defense course. The class roster, later obtained by investigators, showed that she registered using her university email address, paying $450 for an 8-week program. During this period, surveillance footage captured approximately 27 instances of extended conversations between Reynolds and Emily, often occurring after class hours. Cell phone records retrieved from both parties' devices revealed a rapidly intensifying relationship. Between February 12 and March 31, 2019, Reynolds and Emily exchanged 2,847 text messages and participated in 142 phone calls, totaling 276 hours of conversation. The content of these communications, later recovered by digital forensics experts, showed a progression from casual instructor-student interactions to increasingly personal and intimate exchanges. The Cross Creek Mall's security system regularly captured the couple meeting in less frequented areas. Footage from various dates showed them at the mall's food court, typically between 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays, when Emily claimed to be attending study groups at the university library. Credit card statements confirmed their shared meals at establishments including Chick-fil-A, Panera Bread, and local coffee shops. Digital evidence recovered from their devices revealed they used encrypted messaging applications, specifically Signal and Telegram, to coordinate their meetings. Reynolds, drawing on his military training, implemented various countermeasures to maintain their privacy, including using cash for purchases and meeting in locations with minimal surveillance. However, their efforts to remain undetected were compromised by routine digital footprints, including location data from their smartphones and social media activity. The relationship intensified throughout March 2019, as evidenced by hotel records from the Spring Hill Suites on Sycamore Dairy Road, where Reynolds booked rooms on 3 separate occasions using his personal credit card. Security footage showed Emily entering the hotel through side entrances, typically 15 to 20 minutes after Reynolds' check-in, wearing dark clothing and a baseball cap in an apparent attempt to conceal her identity. Their communication patterns suggested growing emotional attachment. Forensic analysis of their devices revealed saved photographs, intimate messages, and discussions about their future together. Emily's personal diary, later discovered on her laptop, contained multiple entries expressing her frustration with the need for secrecy and her fear of her father's potential reaction to the relationship. By late March, several Eagle Shot employees had noticed the unusual dynamic between Reynolds and his student. However, none reported these observations, assuming the interactions were within professional boundaries given Reynolds' reputation as a dedicated instructor. Records from the base's entry gates showed Emily's car, a white 2016 Toyota Corolla, making frequent visits to Highland Heights during hours when her parents were known to be away. Security cameras at house number 42 captured her entering and exiting Reynolds' residence on multiple occasions, typically between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. on weekdays. These visits were carefully timed to avoid detection by neighboring residents, particularly during shift changes for military personnel. On April 12, 2019, Captain Robert Higgins, a close family friend of the Donovans and colleague of Colonel James Donovan at the Joint Special Operations Command, JSOC, observed Emily Donovan and Michael Reynolds dining together at Luigi's Italian restaurant on McPherson Church Road. Security footage from the establishment showed the couple in an intimate conversation, seemingly unaware of their surroundings. Captain Higgins maintained surveillance of the couple for approximately 20 minutes, during which he documented their behavior with his personal phone, before contacting Colonel Donovan. Colonel Donovan's response was immediate and severe. Base security cameras recorded his vehicle, a black 2018 BMW 5 Series, entering Highland Heights at high speed. Upon arrival at Reynolds' residence at 42 Oak Street, where Emily's Toyota Corolla was parked in the driveway, the situation quickly escalated into a heated confrontation. Several neighbors would later testify to the military police about witnessing Colonel Donovan aggressively pounding on Reynolds' front door. Audio recordings from nearby home security systems captured the intensity of the argument that followed. Colonel Donovan demanded Emily's immediate return home, while Reynolds attempted to defend their relationship, citing their age of consent and Emily's legal adult status. The verbal altercation continued for nearly half an hour, during which several neighbors reported hearing threats of career destruction and physical violence. Reynolds maintained his military bearing throughout the confrontation, addressing the colonel as "Sir," despite the increasingly hostile situation. Mrs. Patricia Weber of 44 Oak Street contacted the Fort Bragg Military Police, reporting a domestic disturbance. She described the situation as alarmingly volatile and expressed concern about potential violence. Military police officers Daniel Martinez and Sarah Chen responded to the call, their body cameras recording the scene. The footage shows Colonel Donovan in his service uniform, visibly enraged, being physically restrained by Officer Martinez, while Emily stood between Reynolds and her father. Both officers noted in their subsequent reports that Emily appeared distressed but resolute in her decision to stay with Reynolds. Colonel Donovan made specific threats regarding Reynolds's future employment prospects, while Emily refused to leave with her father. Michael Reynolds maintained a defensive but non-aggressive posture throughout the incident. The officers also documented that several other residents of Oak Street had gathered outside their homes to observe the disturbance, creating additional security concerns. Margaret Donovan arrived at the scene, attempting to mediate the situation. According to witness statements, she tried to reason with both her husband and daughter, suggesting family counseling as an alternative to the public confrontation. Security footage shows Emily reluctantly leaving with her mother, while Reynolds remained under observation by Officer Chen to ensure no further escalation. Before departing, Emily was heard firmly stating her intention to make her own decisions regarding her personal life. The following 48 hours saw intense family discord at the Donovan residence. Neighbors reported hearing repeated arguments, and base security logs show multiple visits from family friends attempting to intervene. Emily's cell phone records indicate she made several calls to domestic abuse hotlines during this period, though no formal complaints were filed. The family's domestic worker, Maria Hernandez, later reported witnessing several heated arguments during which Colonel Donovan threatened to use his military connections to have Reynolds blacklisted from every shooting range in the state. On April 14th, while her parents attended a mandatory base function, Emily systematically removed her belongings from the family home. Security cameras captured her making multiple trips to her car, carrying suitcases, a laptop, and several boxes of personal items. She accessed the family safe, removing her passport, birth certificate, and personal savings bonds worth approximately $10,000. The deliberate and organized nature of her departure suggested this had been planned in advance, possibly in consultation with Reynolds. Emily sent a final text message to her mother's phone, expressing her desire for independence and asking not to be found. Cell phone tower data placed her device at Reynolds's residence, where she would remain until the tragic events that followed. Her university records show she had already arranged to complete her semester remotely, suggesting premeditation in her decision to leave home. Colonel Donovan's subsequent attempts to involve base command in the situation were documented in multiple emails and official communications, though these efforts were limited by Emily's legal adult status and Reynolds's civilian status. The base commander, while sympathetic to Donovan's position, officially noted that the situation was outside military jurisdiction. Colonel James Donovan leveraged his military connections to launch an extensive investigation into Michael Reynolds' background. Through his position at Joint Special Operations Command, Donovan contacted former commanding officers and colleagues from Reynolds' Marine Corps service, seeking any potentially damaging information. The investigation revealed a minor disciplinary incident from Reynolds' first deployment to Afghanistan, previously undisclosed to his employer at Eagle Shot. During a training exercise in 2014, Reynolds had allegedly violated safety protocols, though no injuries occurred. While the incident had been resolved with non-judicial punishment, Colonel Donovan presented this information to David Kendrick, owner of Eagle Shot, implying possible liability concerns. Under mounting pressure from Colonel Donovan's military associates, Eagle Shot terminated Reynolds' employment on May 3, 2019. The official termination letter cited violations of the facility's ethical guidelines and non-disclosure of prior safety incidents as grounds for dismissal. Reynolds' final paycheck, amounting to $1,847 after deductions, was processed the same day. Following his termination from Eagle Shot, Reynolds attempted to secure employment at other shooting facilities in the greater Fayetteville area. However, Colonel Donovan's influence extended throughout the local military community. The owner of Precision Fire, another prominent shooting range, confirmed during the subsequent investigation that he had received multiple calls from high-ranking military officers expressing concerns about hiring Reynolds. Similar patterns emerged at other facilities. Cumberland Shooting Sports, located 15 miles from Fort Bragg, initially scheduled an interview with Reynolds, but canceled after receiving a visit from 2 officers assigned to Colonel Donovan's command. Background checks conducted by potential employers consistently returned with unusual flags, despite Reynolds' honorable discharge and decorated service record. The financial impact on Reynolds and Emily was severe and immediate. Bank records show their savings rapidly depleting, with weekly withdrawals for basic living expenses averaging $600. Reynolds' attempt to refinance his mortgage was denied due to lack of verifiable income. His monthly mortgage payment of $1,875 quickly fell into arrears. Emily's financial situation deteriorated simultaneously. Colonel Donovan, as the primary account holder, frozen Emily's access to her college fund and family trust account. Her credit cards, which were tied to her parents' accounts, were systematically deactivated. ATM security footage captured multiple failed attempts by Emily to withdraw cash, indicating the systematic financial isolation orchestrated by her father. The couple's utility bills began showing signs of strain. Power company records indicate 2 late payments in May, followed by a disconnection notice. Reynolds' previously excellent credit score dropped nearly 150 points due to missed payments on his truck loan and credit card obligations. Collection agencies began calling both Reynolds and Emily, as documented in their phone records. Attempts to secure employment outside the firearms industry proved equally challenging. Applications submitted by Reynolds to various security companies and private military contractors were mysteriously withdrawn or rejected. Email correspondence recovered later revealed direct interference from Colonel Donovan's associates, who contacted potential employers with vague but effective warnings about Reynolds' reliability and judgment. The psychological impact of this systematic isolation became evident in the couple's behavior. Surveillance footage from local businesses showed them making increasingly frequent visits to discount stores and pawn shops. Reynolds sold his prized collection of custom firearms, yielding approximately $3,800, which temporarily stabilized their financial situation. By late May, Reynolds and Emily had exhausted most of their resources. Their combined bank balance had dwindled to less than $500. Grocery store receipts showed a shift to purchasing primarily low-cost staples. The financial strain began affecting their living conditions, with their water usage dropping significantly, suggesting attempts to minimize utility costs. The situation reached a critical point when Reynolds' Ford F-150 was repossessed on May 28, significantly limiting their mobility and job-seeking options. Emily's attempts to find part-time work were hampered by her father's influence in the military community, which extended to many local businesses. Her online courses at the University of North Carolina became their sole connection to their previous lives, though maintaining internet service for these studies proved increasingly difficult. On June 4, 2019, security cameras at Crown Liquors on Rayford Road captured Michael Reynolds purchasing 3 bottles of Jack Daniel's whiskey and a case of beer. The store clerk later reported Reynolds appeared visibly distressed during the transaction, which was completed at 6:47 p.m. using his last functioning credit card. A reconstruction of events, based on neighbor statements and forensic evidence, revealed a steady escalation of tension at 42 Oak Street throughout the evening. Multiple residents of Oak Street reported hearing a heated argument beginning around 8 p.m. Margaret Weber, residing at 44 Oak Street, provided detailed audio recordings from her home security system that captured fragments of the dispute. The argument centered on their deteriorating financial situation and Emily's suggested return to her parents' home. Neighbors reported hearing Emily's voice saying she couldn't watch him destroy himself and needed to think about her future. Reynolds was heard responding about losing everything and being systematically destroyed. The Base Housing Authority's security logs documented several calls from concerned neighbors regarding the escalating disturbance. At 9:12 p.m., the argument reached its climax. Mrs. Weber and 3 other neighbors independently reported hearing Emily's raised voice, followed by what sounded like breaking glass. Moments later, 2 distinct gunshots echoed through the neighborhood, separated by approximately 3 seconds. Military police officers James Patterson and Lisa Rodriguez arrived at the scene within 4 minutes of the shots being reported. Upon receiving no response to their announcements, they executed a forced entry through the front door. Body camera footage documented their discovery of the tragic scene. Emily Donovan's body was found in the living room, positioned near the staircase. She had sustained a single gunshot wound to the chest, with the bullet's trajectory indicating she had been facing her assailant. The medical examiner's report would later confirm the round penetrated her heart, causing immediate incapacitation. Michael Reynolds was discovered in the kitchen. His body was slumped against the base cabinets, with a Glock 19 pistol still gripped in his right hand. A contact wound to his right temple indicated self-infliction, confirmed by powder stippling patterns and bullet trajectory analysis. The pistol was later identified as his personal weapon, legally purchased during his time as an instructor at Eagle Shot. The crime scene investigation, led by Detective Sarah Martinez of the Cumberland County Sheriff's Department, revealed several crucial details. An open laptop on the kitchen counter displayed an unsent email drafted to Colonel Donovan, containing what appeared to be the beginning of a suicide note. Multiple empty alcohol containers were found scattered throughout the house, and toxicology reports would later show Reynolds's blood alcohol content at 0.21%. Emily's phone was recovered from the coffee table, with a draft text message to her mother that read, "I can't fix this anymore." Her diary, found in her upstairs bedroom, contained entries from earlier that day, expressing concern about Reynolds's increasing alcohol consumption and deteriorating mental state. Ballistics analysis confirmed both fatal shots were fired from Reynolds's Glock 19. The weapon contained 3 unfired rounds in the magazine, suggesting premeditation in leaving sufficient ammunition for both acts. GSR, gunshot residue, testing, confirmed Reynolds was the only shooter, definitively ruling out other scenarios. The living room showed signs of a confrontation, with overturned furniture and broken glass from a shattered whiskey bottle. Blood spatter analysis indicated Emily had been standing near the staircase when shot, likely attempting to ascend the stairs. The second shot, self-inflicted by Reynolds, occurred approximately 90 seconds later, based on audio timestamps from neighboring security systems. The base command was immediately notified, and Colonel Donovan, who was attending an evening briefing, was escorted to the scene by military police. His arrival was delayed by base security protocols, and he was prevented from entering the residence while the crime scene investigation was ongoing. Margaret Donovan arrived shortly after, requiring medical attention upon learning of her daughter's death. During June-July 2019, the Cumberland County Investigative Team, led by Detective Sarah Martinez, conducted an extensive investigation into the tragic events on Oak Street. Crime scene technicians meticulously documented every aspect of the scene, collecting over 200 individual pieces of evidence and physical exhibits. The key piece of evidence was Reynolds's suicide note, discovered on his laptop. In the letter, time-stamped June 4, 2019, at 21:03, he detailed the systematic pressure from the Donovan family and the military community. Digital forensics confirmed the document's authenticity and the absence of external interference in its creation. The toxicological examination conducted by the county laboratory revealed Reynolds's blood ethanol content at 0.21%, significantly exceeding the legal limit. Analysis of empty bottles found at the scene indicated that most of the alcohol had been consumed within the last 4 hours before the tragedy. The ballistics examination, conducted by FBI specialists, definitively established that both shots were fired from Reynolds's Glock 19 pistol. The analysis of powder residue and bullet trajectories fully corresponded with the investigation's reconstruction of events. Investigators paid particular attention to interviewing local residents. They conducted 47 interviews with neighbors and witnesses residing on Oak Street. Neighbor testimonies painted a consistent picture of escalating pressure on the couple. Patricia Weber provided investigators with home security camera footage from the previous 2 months, showing regular visits by military officers to Reynolds's house. The financial investigation revealed systematic interference in the couple's economic life. Electronic correspondence was discovered from various employers rejecting Reynolds's employment applications, following contact with military command. Bank statements showed a sharp deterioration in the couple's financial situation after Colonel Donovan's intervention. Interviews with local business employees confirmed the existence of an informal blacklist that prevented both Reynolds and Emily from gaining employment. The owner of Eagle Shot admitted to receiving direct threats from military community representatives if they continued their association with Reynolds. Analysis of phone conversations and electronic correspondence revealed a widespread campaign to isolate the couple. Investigators uncovered more than 30 instances of direct interference by Colonel Donovan or his subordinates in the couple's attempts to establish a normal life. Psychological evaluation, based on diary entries and witness testimonies, indicated a progressive deterioration in Reynolds's mental state in the weeks leading up to the tragedy. The impact of financial pressure and social isolation on his emotional state was particularly noted. By the end of July 2019, the investigative team had prepared a comprehensive 387-page report documenting all aspects of the tragedy. The investigation's findings unequivocally pointed to the role of systematic pressure in the development of events leading to the tragic conclusion on Oak Street. The investigation also revealed previously overlooked details about the couple's final days. Security footage from local businesses showed Reynolds making increasingly erratic purchases, primarily alcohol and basic necessities. His credit card statements indicated a pattern of desperate attempts to maintain financial stability, with multiple declined transactions in the days leading up to June 4th. Analysis of Emily's personal effects revealed several draft letters to military authorities and civilian law enforcement requesting intervention in what she described as systematic harassment. These letters, never sent, detailed multiple instances of interference with their attempts to build a life together. The investigative team also documented a pattern of surveillance, both official and unofficial, that had been maintained on the couple. Multiple private security cameras in the neighborhood had been redirected to monitor Reynolds' residence, reportedly at the request of concerned parties with military connections. Communication records obtained through subpoenas showed an extensive network of military and civilian contacts working in concert to maintain pressure on the couple. These included coordinated efforts to prevent Reynolds' employment, interference with their banking relationships, and systematic monitoring of their activities. In mid-August 2019, the Cumberland County District Court, presided over by Judge Michael Harrington, conducted a comprehensive review of the case materials. The proceedings, which lasted 5 days, examined the extensive evidence collected during the 2-month investigation. The court classified Reynolds' actions as first-degree murder under North Carolina General Statute 1417, which carries a mandatory sentence of life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. The ruling was based on the purchase of alcohol earlier that evening, the deliberate preservation of sufficient ammunition for both shots, the drafting of a suicide note, the sequence and timing of the shots, and the coherent content of his final email, the methodical execution of his actions, and witness accounts of his behavior earlier that day. However, due to Reynolds' death by suicide, the court was required to terminate criminal proceedings in accordance with state law. Judge Harrington issued a formal order closing the criminal case on August 15, 2019, noting that the death of the accused renders moot any further criminal prosecution. The civil aspects of the case proceeded separately. The court ordered the liquidation of Reynolds' estate to provide compensation to the Donovan family. His assets included the house at 42 Oak Street valued at $225,000, remaining savings and investment accounts of $12,450, personal property and vehicles worth $18,700, and a life insurance policy that was voided due to the suicide clause. After settling outstanding debts and liens, approximately $180,000 remained for distribution to Emily's estate. The court appointed an independent administrator to oversee the liquidation and transfer of assets. Judge Harrington's final ruling included several notable observations about the circumstances leading to the tragedy. While maintaining the legal classification of first-degree murder, the court acknowledged the significant external pressures that contributed to the events. The ruling stated, "This court cannot ignore the systematic campaign of social and economic isolation that preceded these tragic events. While such actions do not legally excuse the ultimate crime, they represent a troubling abuse of power and influence that merits serious examination by relevant authorities." The ruling also addressed the military's involvement, noting, "The evidence presents a disturbing pattern of extra-legal pressure applied through military channels to civilian matters. This court strongly recommends a review of policies governing the use of military influence in personal affairs." The court ordered all case materials to be preserved for potential future review by military oversight committees and civil rights organizations. Judge Harrington specifically noted that while criminal proceedings were concluded, the case raised significant questions about institutional accountability and the abuse of authority. The final court documents included recommendations for policy changes regarding military involvement in civilian affairs, protection mechanisms for age gap relationships between consenting adults, prevention of systematic economic harassment, and mental health support for former military personnel. The ruling was filed with the Cumberland County Court on August 20, 2019, officially concluding the legal proceedings while acknowledging the broader implications of the case for military-civilian relations and institutional accountability.